Okay, so for sandcasting, the entire module, we always split our kinds of calculations and designs and stuff into two things. We design the mold or we design the pattern. Okay, so what the pattern is, it's a replica of the final part, right, with some allowances. And these, I'll explain in a moment what these allowances are. But basically, the pattern is the final product. Then we have the mold, we just say is a negative space for the molten metal. This includes the pattern, which is placed here, right? So because I'm talking about this entire thing that we have here. It includes this pattern, as well as a riser or two risers, a sprue, and a runner. Okay? And then we also have a core, if there are any holes or something like that that are too big to be drilled. The whole process of this is designing a pattern, which is now this replica, with these allowances that we spoke about. Then it's going to get packed into the cope and drag, and then we kind of dig out the riser and sprue according to our design. I'm going to switch to a video to show you what it looks like. So this is a video by, wait, hold on. Just open the menu, please. There we go. This is a menu by this guy. And this is his pattern, which is in similar shape, but not exactly the same as the final product because of allowances that we have to make due to the process of sandcasting. But this is basically the base for a helping hand. A helping hand is just like this tool that you use to hold wires while you're soldering them. So it will then go into this. But yeah, he refers to it as his helping hand or third hand there. Yeah, so this just looks a bit strange in the video because it's just colored a bit weirdly, but it's basically like this rectangle thing. But this is our pattern. As you can see here, there are draft angles everywhere. So draft angles are for easy removal afterwards, after we've cast everything. It just makes it easier to remove this pattern, or rather to remove the metal that is being cast into the mold that the pattern made, so we can more easily remove the metal after it's been cast. What he's done here is, this is now the pattern that we've designed, and this is now put into the drag of this entire mold. So our mold is divided into the cope and the drag, or not the mold itself, but just the thing in which it is cast. This wooden little box thing. There's two parts, and this one's the drag, it's the bottom part. As far as I understand, this is where we tend to put our patterns, I think, for more easy removal. But always keep in mind your split line. Your split line is literally this. This is your split line, where there's going to be another box that comes over this. I'll show you in a moment. Where is the other one? When he puts it on top. There,
okay,
see?
Now it's time to ram up the top half of the mold.
So he has a top half of the mold, which he also fills with sand. So you can see this is a very manual process. And the design comes kind of after you pack the sand and stuff, but we're kind of, but he obviously has a design in mind already. But yeah, everything is done with this split line kept in mind. So when you design a mold, you can see here there's some kind of feeder or riser or whatever, something like that. But you can see this is very similar to the type of stuff we do in class. And if I skipped a bit ahead, you can see this is the only view we see right here from the top, but there's a riser and a feeder. I'll show you what these things mean in a moment. I just want to show you kind of what happens at the end. So as he pours the liquid into, or the liquid molten metal from this into the feeder, it fills up, and then as soon as metal comes out of the riser, he stops. and it's allowed to cool. See now how he takes it apart? And what's left here, do you have your final piece of metal, and these little straggle parts you can literally just machine off. That's why we don't really care that these parts are part of the design, because they're very easy to remove. And yeah, you'll see in a moment he's going to also edge off these parts that are going beyond there because it's a bit of a rough mold. By the way, this is why we have machining allowances. It's so that when in our machining allowances, when we add material to the ends, we know we're going to be machining things off at the end because of how rough it sometimes is. So we don't want to have our final thing be smaller than the dimensions we want. So if we want our thing to be, say now, 30 millimeters long, but we know our final product is going to be a bit rough around the edges, we're going to have to machine off 10 millimeters in either, 2 millimeters on either side. We don't want the final thing to be 28. So instead, if we know we're going to machine off 2 millimeters on either side, we add 2 on either side. So in the end, we have 34, because it's 30 plus 2 on that side and 2 on that side, because we're going to machine off the sides, like that. The other video I want to show you is this really cool video by Andrew Martin over here. Just how it looks if you have a cross section of the process. So just take a look at this. You have the metal being poured into the feeder. We have this little part here to counteract the turbulence. So I can't remember what exactly it's called, but the whole point is, over here you can see there is a lot of turbulence that's happening here. So you pour it into this part, it's like bumpy, bumpy, bumpy. Okay, then it just relaxes when it comes down here, goes down here, and it fills up, and then it goes to the top. The reason why we don't just have it fill up without an outlet, it has to do with consistency of heating and the density of stuff. But yeah, just usually when, okay, I'm not entirely sure if I'm explaining that correctly, but just know you should always have at least one riser. With something like this, they went for 2. You can do 2, you can do 1. They usually specify in the exam question. But yeah, you'll see here, he stops pouring as soon as this reaches the top of the riser, because then he knows this one's also completed. But in this case, he has 2 risers. There's a whole bunch of calculations and reasons why you should have risers and stuff like that, but it has to do with the consistency of your final casting, especially the heat distribution, not having it to be too cold and hot, and have certain uneven spots or something. But just know there's a riser, there's a feeder, there's a runner that comes over here. Obviously this doesn't have a split line because this is just demonstrating the way this works. But yeah, this is the general thing. I'm just going to let this play out because it's pretty cool. Just be warned, it explodes. So see how it fills up? It's filling up gradually. The mold starts with the riser, finishes first. It's interesting. As you can see, this constantly turbulence here. It's moving, but it's always smooth over here. Nice and smooth coming up. And the calculations you do is to calculate how fast this can fill in relation to everything else. Everything is connected. There's a reason we do the different parts of these questions. But it's very important that this finishes as soon as this finishes. Yeah, and then it explodes. Come on, explode. Show the people. Cool. There it explodes. This glass wasn't made to handle that type of heat. So these are the types of things we were talking about for our whole mold and pattern design. This being our pattern, and this entire thing being our mold. It is split into the cope and the drag. The cope at the top, the drag at the bottom, and our split line. As we saw, there's the wooden box thing. The gate is where the runner enters into this larger cavity. The core is to keep like an open spot for any holes that are in an existing product, or in the final product that you want. But you don't use it for really small holes. Let's say like, what's a good measurement? Like 5 millimeter holes. I mean, you can easily drill that in afterwards. You don't have to design an entire core for it, because then you'll have like one itsy bitsy little rod that you're just like sticking into your pattern. It doesn't make much sense. You can just rather machine it afterwards. So here's our sprue or our feeder. And then we have this little bit. So always have this little, I'm not entirely sure, remember what we call it, but the thing is, it dips a little bit so it can account for that turbulence that's happening here. Then it calms down and becomes more laminar over here, runs in, and as it's filling up here, it's also filling up here, and it is the timing is organized such that it reaches the top when this is full. Okay, and then you let it sit. An important thing to know here, as I said here, there's no gap between the runner and the split line. So the runner being this little thing leading up to this big cavity, the gate being the entry point. This must be in the drag, in the bottom part. So always let it be just below the drag like this. This is what I've seen be consistent across old exams, or at least one that had this as a mark. I think actually, if not in the exams, in one of my own tests, where I was marked wrong, and then the comment was it has to be in the drag.